It's me, Zenobia Darling. You're listening to #RockstarLife, the Coffee Break Podcast. Let's go. Where the hell's my cold brew at?
We're good. All right, what's up, guys? It's Zenobia Darling. I beamed down. Where are we at? Joppatown? Joppatown in Harford County. I'm here with the Godfather of podcasting, Rich Bennett.
I wouldn't say I'm the Godfather.
Well, we just had Brad on, so it's, you know, he's the Mogfather. You're the... You're the...
It's funny because he's starting to... That name came about during the Hartford, the artist and author show, and I was wearing a shirt that said, the Podfather. So he always called me the Podfather, which I am not. That's, what is it, Adam Curry, I think, is the Podfather. So I gave him the nickname the Mogfather.
Mouthful of graffiti,
Yeah, and it just, it stuck. But
I love it.
Yeah,
because
he's awesome.
You're the one that got, you and Brad too, like, are the ones that got me into podcasting, got me doing it, because I did a little bit of radio theater at Towson.
Right.
But then getting on your podcast, I was like, oh, this is something I need to do.
Well, and that's how, because Brad came on my podcast before he even started his.
Conversation with Rich Bennett, subscribe everywhere.
We were when we were finished, I said, dude, man, you're a natural at this. It was just like it did with you. I said, if you ever want to co-host, feel free. I said, or if you want to start your own. And he went home and told Lisa, and Lisa's like, well, you should start your own podcast.
Yeah.
And he did, and he's doing great with it. I love it, man.
I just went to his live show, and I had so much fun. And
I got to get to one of them,
man. And I'm on a mission to look for Dead or Alive records, the 80s punk band with Pete Burns, because he's like my idol.
Oh, really? And I still might have mine.
Oh my God. Because I want Pete Burns like on my wall. And I was like, let's get the records. If you have it, I'll take it. Because I cannot find it.
I still got all my records from when I was a club DJ.
Oh. Well, we're getting into the nightlife, but like, if you get the Pete Burns record, because I cannot find it at all. Like, that is one, like, and they're always like Culture Club, and I'm like, no, I want Dead or Alive with Pete Burns. Like,
have you checked Discogs?
I'll have to check them, because I checked when we did the live podcast taping with Brad.
Red Records.
I looked there, and then there was a place in Havre Grace I looked, and then I've been trying to find online, but I can find them, but they're so expensive.
What's the other place in Bel Air? Vintage Records?
Vintage? I'll have to check them out, too.
They might have it.
Because I love it for the artwork of it. Like, that's the best.
If it's not on Discogs, though, chances are you're not going to find it.
That's true.
You know, so. Because
they're like, and the whole music is just, that's my aesthetic. That is my aesthetic.
Oh, man. I used to, it's funny because when I was taught how to DJ, well, let me rephrase that. When I was taught how to DJ in the clubs, because there's a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Guy taught me beat mixing. He was big in the club scene, and he used to get so pissed at me because I could go from like Dead or Alive into rock. I mean, into dance. And he's like, "How are you doing that?" It's like,
there's an art form to it.
Listening to the beat.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when we went to digital, even though I had the equipment, I can do that. My son was it still is.
Yeah.
A master at that stuff. Me, not so much anymore.
Yeah. Well, there's something about the old records that it's like, I love the artwork connection to it. That part.
The booklets inside.
Yes.
You don't get it.
Because you get it a little bit with CDs and tapes, but I'm like, there's records that are the best.
Yeah, try to buy a box set on digital form.
Oh, yeah. No, it's.
You're not getting it.
And you're not getting any of that stuff.
And even a lot of your, like, your special edition press releases, whether it be red vinyl, the different color vinyls and all that. And I don't know if I still have them. I'd have to look. So back in the day, now I'm showing my age, cereal boxes.
Oh,
had
yes.
records on the back.
Really?
Yes. You would cut it out. It was just cardboard, but you could play it on your turntable.
Wow.
Yeah, like Archie's was big with that and all that. And I had a bunch of them.
Wow. Did they survive?
I doubt it.
Okay.
I mean, it's cardboard. It's a cereal box.
Yeah.
You know,
like a Wheaties box.
I had, excuse me, I had my hot water tank, one of the hoses busted.
Oh, no.
Water everywhere, and like a dummy. I shouldn't have never done this, but my records were stored under the steps, right by the water tank, and a lot of them got ruined.
Oh no!
So I was so upset.
That breaks
and
my
I
heart.
started throwing away. I was throwing away the whole album, and then my brother-in-law told me, he's like, "Dude, if the vinyl's still good, don't throw the vinyl away. Get rid of the jacket." But don't throw the vinyl away.
Because it'll still play, right?
It'll still play. And today, I don't care what anybody says.
Records are the best.
You
have to have the records.
a good turntable and a good stereo system, or what we call hi-fi system. You're not gonna beat the sound, man.
Yeah.
You're not. And I don't know if it's true or not, but from what I heard, so when CDs came out, a lot of stuff was remastered.
Yeah.
You could get it remastered.
But I feel like they took out the magic of it, though.
They did, because back in the day when they were recording, a good producer, and again, this is what I heard. I don't know if it's true or not. Would play with the levels. You like all your drums were mic'd, each drum, all this stuff. And now, from what I've heard, everything's just at one level.
Yeah.
That they record because.
Well, that's the thing I've noticed a lot about Spotify is it makes everything like flat. And in the records, there are the different levels, and to like music people like us, it's like we can hear that. I love that stuff. Whereas I listen to it on Spotify, and I'm like, it's all that.
Everything's cranked up at one level. You can tell that if something's on Spotify, if it's an old record, you can tell. Yeah. Because all of a sudden the volume's lower.
Yeah.
But if you put on the headphones and crank that up, man, you're able to pull out all the different instruments.
Oh yeah.
Not as well as you could if it was on vinyl.
Yeah. But if you're on vinyl, I mean, you smoke a blunt and then like just play like the Van Halen record, and like it's like 11 o'clock on a Friday. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
I still want to watch Wizard of Oz while playing Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh.
I haven't done that yet.
Oh, man.
I gotta try it.
So explain. So you watch it because I know there's a connection.
Apparently, if you're listening to the Dark Side, it coincides with each other. I don't know how.
Wow.
I don't know. Again, I'm
Pink
gonna
Floyd
have to try
is amazing.
It.
Oh man.
They were.
Oh man, awesome. I love it. So let's get into like your nightlife. So I know you were a Marine, and then you got into dancing too. So similar to me.
After Marine Corps,
yeah. So like what?
By accident.
What's a fun story about that time? Because I know I have many nightclub stories.
I don't know if it's a fun story. It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
But the scary part came like several years later.
Yeah.
So the first time I did it, it was at a nightclub, and actually it's a nightclub where I ended up being the head DJ, and I wasn't out of the Marines that long, and there was a girl there who I knew from town, and she dared me to strip. I said, well, if the DJ has my song, I'll do it. Because I figured the DJ ain't going to have my song. It was
what song is that?
Brand new movie that came out. It's like, ain't no way he's going to have it because he's playing all this disco stuff.
Yeah. What song?
It was Footloose.
Okay.
And he played that.
Okay.
Like, oh, shit.
You're like, I got to do that.
I have to. I mean, I was a Marine. I said, I'm going to do it. I would do it. So I did. And so anyways, it was years later. We were at a party at my sister's house, and somebody was talking about it. And my sister's like, yeah, oh my God, I cannot believe he did that I saw my brother dance. I'm like, wait a minute, what? What do you mean you saw me dancing? Well, yeah, you started, and everybody's like, oh my God, Robin, your brother's stripping. She's like, what? And I was like, oh my God, I did not know that. I was like, blood red.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
You're like, oh, yeah. I get that.
So that was bad enough. Several years even later, came up again, we're talking about it. And my mother's like, yeah, I cannot believe I saw that. I was like, wait a minute, what? She goes, well, I was there for your sister. I said, no, my mother was there too.
Oh, so you did in front of, oh my God.
I had no idea.
I would be mortified.
I had no idea.
Because I think my sister's seen me in drag twice, my mom once, my dad twice. He sees me do stand-up as a guy, but I'm still just like, oh, wait, you seen me in drag?
It was just, it's weird. And then I get married. I don't even know where it came from. My wife has a newspaper clipping. There used to be a singles magazine called The Little Black Book.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. And they asked me to do an event for them on New Year's Eve. I dressed as Baby New Year. And and somehow or another, my wife's got the photo and it's hanging up in one of our cabinets. It's like, she was too young to even see me do that.
So there's pictures of it? Because I know when I was dancing, it was right before people had cell phone cameras.
Yeah.
Which was like, because that ruined nightlife completely. So I'm like, thank God. Like, I'm sure there's some random video or picture, but like most of the pictures of me dancing, I'm like, I purposely have them scrubbed.
Yeah, when I did, I don't even know if the brick phones were out yet.
Yeah.
Because it was 86? Wait a minute, no. We bought the nightclub in 86. So it had to be before. And man, it was right when, because my time in the Marine Corps, I got out off of active duty 85, was honorably discharged in 87. So it may have been 85 when I did it the first time.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't even think the brick phones were out yet.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think a mobile phone was actually in the back of the limousine. That was
Yeah.
it.
Well, I remember going to an Orioles game, and I forget who it was, but one of the Orioles was like leaving in his car and signing autographs, and he was ordering pizza on his car phone. I remember that was back in like the late 90s, and that was the first time I was like, oh, wait, he's like literally ordering a pizza in his car. Like, I don't know why that memory came up, but I remember that.
Oh, man. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, it had its time, and then I got into DJing, and
but you still were in nightlife, right?
well, yeah. So all right, so yeah, because when I got out of the Corps, not to go into everything, but I actually became a bartender.
Okay.
So I was a bartender when I did the stripping thing. I didn't strip where I attended bar at.
Yeah.
Until later when I did Baby New Year.
Okay.
It was that bar where I used to tend bar at. So I was making good money tending bar.
Yeah. Oh, I did. I miss it.
I mean, I went to school for it. I was by trade.
You were a
mixologist.
Yeah. Excellent.
That and got my degree in radio.
All right. So what's your favorite martini to make?
I'm not big on the martinis.
Okay.
Yet. I got to admit, we did an espresso martini.
Yeah.
Which wasn't bad.
Yeah. They're good. They are good.
Wasn't bad.
So on our coffee break, we'll be having. I do love an old fashioned. I would say it's a coffee break, but I'm like, we might be drinking.
Kentucky mules are good too.
Yeah. See, I love a filthy martini.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's got to be with Kettle One Citron or Grey Goose. It's got to be like I'm bougie as fuck, but
I do miss bartending.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the art has been taken away.
I think so too.
Because you have all your different flavored vodkas now. Not just vodkas. I mean, even Crown Royal. You have different flavored ones.
Crown Apple.
It takes away from. I think it takes away from being able to create those flavors.
Yeah. See, I like doing infusions, like taking plain Kettle One and infusing it with like frozen strawberries for 3 days and then making a drink. And I'm like, there's something to that. But if you buy it, it's most of the time it's fake flavoring and it's like so high in sugar. And I'm like, that's going to be a hangover.
I also like smoking the drinks.
Oh, yes.
Because so once a month we were doing our beer bourbon barbecue. But you're doing barbecue, whatever you're having.
Yeah.
Has to either be barbecued or smoked.
Yep.
So we did that. We did the old fat. All the drinks we made, we smoked.
Yeah.
We even tried it with beer.
Ooh.
Yeah, which wasn't bad.
Smoked beer.
Yeah, smoked beer. Wasn't bad.
What beer did you use?
IPAs.
Okay.
Different. Yeah, we.
Oh, so it has that.
We had a rule. Beer bourbon barbecue had to be real beer. Although we had a couple guys.
It's not Miller High Life.
Yeah, we had a couple guys that would bring their what I call flavored water.
Yeah.
You know, your light beers, but that started because so when I was in the last radio station I worked at, the general manager there took us all out for drinks, and typical redneck fashion, I figure I'm going to get a Budweiser. Bartender asked me, what do you want? I said, Budweiser. He said, you want a glass? I said, no, I'm a beer guy. General manager's like, no. Hold up. Don't give him that Budweiser. I'm like, uh-oh. He said, Rich, I'm going to teach you something about beers. I had no idea about IPAs or nothing. I thought they were like a fad.
Yeah.
You know, it's a craft beer. It ain't going to last long. He taught me about, let's just say craft beers, because you have more than IPAs that are craft beers. and how each different glass can make it taste different.
Oh, that 100%.
I thought
100%.
You think about it, wine glasses.
Yes.
Bourbon.
I will not drink
makes
red
sense.
wine unless it's in a bulbous red wine glass.
Oh,
if you serve it to me in something else, I'm like, I'm not drinking it.
It makes sense. So my buddy came over one day. I just so happened to I was able to get a 4-pack from El Segundo Brewery out of California, a 4-pack of Stone Cold Steve Austin's IPA.
Ooh.
So he came over. I called him. I said, man, you got to come over and try this.
Mm-hmm.
He's a wrestling fan, so of course he's like, okay. And he never believed this glass bit. So he popped it. He's like, oh, man, that is nasty. I said, hold up a minute. I grabbed my Belgian glass, poured it in there. I said, now try it. He said, ain't going to taste anything. I said, try it. He tried. He's like, holy shit, that's good. I told you.
Yeah.
He didn't believe.
It makes all the difference. It makes all the difference.
A big difference. And it ain't a matter of just, red Solo cup. No.
Well, I mean, there's a time and a place for that,
but that does.
Well, I
make
mean,
a
if it's a
difference,
vodka
too.
soda,
Yeah.
that's one thing. But if it's like,
it's that certain glass that, and even some of your champagne flutes, for different beers. So I don't even know how we got on the subject.
Well,
of beers.
it's a coffee break, so it's like we're
okay,
drinking nightlife.
Yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, I mean, I do miss, and I still bartend once in a while. Like if my sister's, does a lot of the weddings for Richardson Farms, and if they're having like a specialty bar, sometimes she'll ask me to do it. So that's when I do it, or when I still get creative at home once in a while.
Yeah.
It just, I love trying different things.
I do too.
Summertime, I love gin and tonics.
Yeah.
But I wanted to try a summer drink with bourbon. Bourbon by itself is not really a summer drink.
Yeah.
So I took.
I'm trying to think. There might be.
I took fresh strawberries.
Ooh.
I muddled them.
Mm-hmm.
I got some strawberry simple syrup. Added that, an ounce of that, an ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice, and then 2 ounces of, what did I use? I may have used the Angel's Envy bourbon, and shook it up. And
it was good.
Yeah,
I love it. Because I
Very
think of bourbon
refreshing.
as like winter. Like I like doing it around Christmas time. Like mix it with apple cider or something, or cranberry juice. Serve it hot too. Is good.
It's one of our beer bourbon barbecues. We had my one buddy, my one best friend. I don't think he knows what bourbon is. He would always bring over something. So he brought the Crown Royal Blackberry.
Ooh, is that good? Because I love the apple.
Let me tell you something. Especially when you mix it with apple cider.
It's good.
And put a cinnamon stick in there.
Oh,
it's
man.
dangerous because that stuff
love
went
it.
down very quick.
And then you go to stand up and you're like, oh, I'm drunk.
Oh, man, it was awesome.
All right, ad break. I got to pay for all this damn coffee I'm drinking and tea I'm spilling. What's up, art lovers? It's me, Zenobia Darling. Did you know I'm more than just a drag rock star? I'm also a very accomplished painter, photographer, and you can check it all out on ZenobiaDarlingCreative.com. Sponsored by the Harford County Cultural Arts Board, my blog, #RockstarLife, the arts blog. It explores all my creativity right when it crashes into local culture. Explore my neo-expressionistic fine art, my editorialized goth photography, and this is the best part. You can buy my original paintings, and you can spruce up your boring-ass walls, because every wall needs some glittering Zenobia Darling on them. So go check out Zenobia Darling Creative. The link is in the episode description. Ooh, what's up, Glamazons? It's Zenobia Darling, and you know my rock stardust doesn't just happen, right? It's crafted to perfection at Odyssey Salon and Day Spa in Aberdeen. Let me spill my secret. Abby, my badass stylist, is the mastermind behind my iconic glittering blonde mohawk. Whether you want to spike it up, smooth it out, dye it a killer shade, or just add that extra edge to your hair, the crew at Odyssey have the magic to make you feel like the superstar you truly are. And it's not just about hair. They keep my nails sharp, my skin polished, and every visit is an absolute blast. And here's the best part, my darlings. Odyssey isn't just about looking fierce. It is a safe space where us LGBT folks can feel right at home, shining as our truest selves. So if you're ready to live your own #rockstar life and embrace your creative spirit, get yourself to Odyssey Salon and Day Spa in Aberdeen. Tell them Zenobia sent you and show the world how fabulous us rock stars look. And you never know, you might read into yours truly. The link to book your visit to unlock your fabulosity is in the episode description. Hey, freaks and phantoms, it's your paranormal queen, Zenobia Darling, here with some killer news that I have to tell you about. There's an event creeping up your way that'll make your dark little heart skip a beat. The galleries at CCBC Essex are unleashing the paranormal realm beyond the lore, curated by the one and only Derek Pence, a.k.a. me. From October 14th to November 15th, 2024, dive into this immersive art exhibition with eerie works from an amazing lineup of artists who dare to ask, is the paranormal more than just spooky stories and folklore? And here is the kicker. On November 1st, during the opening reception, we're dropping the world premiere of Ethereal Anarchy, my new paranormal-themed art film starring me, Zenobia Darling, and a few friends as we ghost hunt on the CCBC campus in broad daylight. Want to be a part of the madness? RSVP now. The link's in the episode description. And see you in the dark side, babes. So, podcasting.
Yes.
I really want to get into, because, like, you're a big podcaster. Like, I know we kind of touched on it briefly.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about podcasting that you love so much?
I fell into I fell into by accident.
Yeah. Because you were in radio.
I was in radio. The last station I worked at, I left in 2012. That's when I started HartfordCountyLiving.com, because I wanted to. I started for a couple of reasons. Number one, I wanted something where it had nothing but good, positive news.
Yes, because doom and gloom is the news anymore, and it sucks.
Exactly. I also wanted something where I don't care if you were a car dealer or if you sold Avon, you could afford advertising.
Yeah.
Because radio is expensive.
Yes.
So did that. That was October 2012. October 2015, before I decided, I said, somebody told me to do a YouTube show, interviewing, some people from Hartford County. I don't know how word got to a local radio station that's no longer in existence here, but they wanted me to record up at the radio station the video. I could use their system, and they would play it on the air on Saturday mornings. So it's like, sure. But now they don't pay me because I'm not an employee, which means I have to find a sponsor and pay for that time slot. But that also means that's the only ad you should hear.
Yeah.
So I did. And again, this is just YouTube share. That's how that's how I always say, find a sponsor before you start your podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You can. So I did that and signed a contract to do, I think it was monthly. I can't remember. It may have been weekly. Anyways, it was for 6 months or 6 episodes. First episode, and I believe that building might be haunted. Who knows? Halfway through.
Wait, isn't it Bel Air?
No, Havre de Grace.
Oh.
The old building on the top of the hill.
Up
WASA
from like the
building.
ambulance thing? There's like an ambulance. Is it RIM 55?
It's 155, but it's right on the top of the hill. You'll see the satellite.
Okay, is it near the quarry? Something?
I think so.
Yeah, that whole area is super haunted.
Yeah. So halfway through the recording, the guy running the camera was like, Rich, we got a problem. I said, what's the matter? He said, the camera's not working. Brand new camera. He tested it before he came in and everything. So I had to take pictures of my guests, which was embarrassing because this was in October.
Mm-hmm.
My first 3 guests were breast cancer survivors. And then to say that, the video ain't working. So it was kind of embarrassing. So I had to piece together all these photos. That was the YouTube thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went to listen to it that Saturday morning on the radio station, halfway through, I hear a bunch of commercials.
From the radio station, not from your podcast.
Right.
Okay.
So it's like, okay.
Ooh.
So the next time I went in to record, I said something to the owner. He apologized. He said, yeah, I'm sorry. That won't happen again. Well, needless to say, it kept happening.
Oh, God.
So when it came time to renew, I said, no. I said, my sponsor got upset.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, I ain't going to do it. So my sponsor, which was actually a restaurant, suggested the idea of just doing a podcast, strictly a podcast, no video, nothing, a true podcast, because they had a side room and we could record in that. It's like, that works for me. I didn't have a mixer like I have now. I had a huge 16-channel mixer
Oh.
that I bought for. I think I bought it for my son's band or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that. I had all my microphones for DJing and for when his band was playing, and I would plug it into my laptop, and that's how we recorded because that thing didn't have an SD card or nothing.
Yeah.
So
Ooh.
after a while, it started that side room because it was lunchtime. People started coming in, so we outgrew that, and I don't want to say we outgrew it. The bar or the restaurant just started getting busier. They didn't have a choice. They had to put people in there.
Yeah.
So my brother-in-law said, "Move it to the Lions Club building." It's like it's secluded. There's nobody there, no windows. It's like
Because I love podcasting because it's like you go to the studio and it's like you're in your own little world.
So we did that, and the funny thing is, and you know this, when you're doing a podcast and you have guests, it's frustrating, especially when you first start and guests don't show up.
Yes.
It's frustrating as hell.
Yes.
The funny thing is, I play Santa Claus professionally, so June 1st I start growing my beard.
Yeah.
It's like
You're kind of Santa Claus right now.
Yeah. So 2 or 3 times where we record that in person now, I would stand outside and wait for my guest. Each time it was a woman.
Mm-hmm.
This is before I really started having co-hosts a lot.
Yeah.
And they would come halfway up the drive, turn around, and leave.
Oh, God.
It's like, this is like 2 or 3 separate times. So I contacted them afterwards. They thought I was a homeless guy standing out there because of the beard. And
Oh, gosh.
well,
I'm like,
but
they
you
haven't
think
seen
about-
homeless people there.
Here you are going up into the woods
Yeah.
to a secluded place. So it's like, I can understand that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so we moved up here, I was recording more, and I went from dropping an episode once a month, and this is when it was still called Harford County Living with Rich Bennett.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I moved it to once a week. Christy Breslin, you know Christy?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
She like not DJ'd but hosted the Masquerade
she
Ball for
MCs
the
a lot.
yeah.
Her and I MC the Bel Air 4th of July parade.
Okay.
I
I want to get in contact with her about the paranormal show.
Okay.
So
she's awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she came in one day. Took me I had to go through a lot of red tape to get her on because of the at the time the TV station she worked at. But I had to laugh. She walks in. She's like, "Rich, have you ever thought about getting an agent?" Like, for what? My DJing? She goes, "No, for your podcast." Like, no, why? She goes, "Well, I think first of all you need to change the name. Harford County Living with Rich Bennett sounds like it should be a real estate show," which I agree with her. It does in a way. I was like, "Yeah, I can understand that." She goes, "You need to, go outside of Harford County. You need to focus outside." I said, okay. She suggested conversations with Rich Bennett, but I told her, I said, I'd have to check with my sponsors first, and then I'll ask my listeners for name ideas, which that was a big mistake there.
Oh, I'm sure you got some fun.
Yeah.
Can you share fun?
Oh, I will in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had all my sponsors were okay with me changing the name if the name fit, with the exception of one. They still wanted it Harford County. Needs to say they're not a sponsor anymore, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So some of the name suggestions were the Richie Rich Show. First of all, no, I'm not a
well,
cartoon.
Richie Rich is also a club
cartoon.
kid and fashion designer who does Heatherette in New York City in the
you
drag
serious?
world. Yep.
Okay, well, it's like, nah, that doesn't work.
Yep.
Somebody else said the Rich Bennett Show. I didn't like that.
Yeah, that's a little too basic.
What was the other one? Oh God, somebody says something. I forget the name, but it sounded like it should be a show about money.
Yeah.
Rich Conversations. Which
Yeah, see, that's like Joan Rivers' old show where it's like, let's go interview rich people. Yeah, that's what.
Like, nah.
No.
So I thank God a majority of people liked Conversations with Rich Bennett.
Because your podcast is a conversation. I've been on it. I mean, I co-host it, and it's like there's a conversation.
I don't use scripted questions. In the beginning, most of the virtual ones, I'll read an introduction of the guest, because a lot of where I find a lot of my guests from they'll send me like a biography.
Yeah, or like a media kit.
Yeah. But as other than that, one of the things I cannot stand, and this happens a lot, when a guest that's on a podcast a lot, will send you a list of questions they're ready to answer.
Oh, I hate that. That's some LA bullshit where it's like, oh, here's the.
Well, and not only that, it's like, then every podcast you go on is going to sound the same.
Yes.
It's the same question.
Yes.
So I don't like I just like the idea of what we're doing here.
Yeah, it's just a free
conversation.
Because I always say I have an outline just to kind of keep me on like what I want. But like again, it's a conversation. Yeah. It's a coffee break. Like
I like it better like that. So when I changed the name, that's when it just spiked.
Yeah.
So I went from dropping 1 episode a week to 3 episodes a week. I'll record anywhere from 3 to 8 times a week. We are in over 100 countries now. Can't be in all the countries because it's explicit. And there are some countries will not carry your podcast if it's explicit.
So that's me, because I cuss like a sailor, you know me, or I should say cuss like a Marine.
I was going to say, I'm offended by
that.
That's true. Us Marines cuss a lot
But
more.
I say I do cuss like a Marine. Like my brother-in-law's a Marine, and I'm like, I make him blush sometimes.
I like to know where that term came from.
Yeah, because I'm like, I know sailors, and I'm like, they can cuss, but I'm like, Marines are where the real Marines. Foul language is at. The real tapestry of obscenity comes out.
But no, it's blown up. Number one, we've been number one in the addiction category for well over a year now. Beat out MSNBC's American Radical.
I love it. I love it when indie podcasts beat out the big budget people. That makes me so happy.
So, but I love it. And the thing is, well, number one, I never would have met you if it wasn't for the podcast. Everybody I meet is just, it's amazing. And being a chamber member, chambers always push networking. Yeah.
This is,
we are networking when we podcast.
I've met more people in Harford County that I've actually used for stuff. Like, Brad Cox, for instance.
Yeah.
I forget her name. Emily Adolph.
Oh, yeah.
She does it. I forget her name. The one who was just on the podcast where I was shading her about ripping the pasta noodles in half.
Oh, Jennifer.
Yes. I'm like, stuff like that. I was listening to that. I was like, I was a shady bit. I don't know what it was, but it was.
And the funny thing is with Jennifer, so when she came on the podcast, I forget. I think I invited her on because of her photography.
Yes.
No idea that she grew up here, where I grew up. Had no idea that her mother or mother-in-law went to school. I know her mother-in-law and her father-in-law or father. I can't remember. Anyways, and her grandfather or great-grandfather's farm was right here, Moore's Orchard. No idea.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I always say with Harford County, you can't swing.
Small. It's like that small
or Brad Cox
RFD thing,
Brad called it small to more when we were texting before, and then I always say you can't swing your dick to the left without it hitting 5 people you know here.
This is definitely, what do they call it? The 7 degrees of bacon or whatever, something like that.
And we all know each other,
knows somebody.
And then you start uncovering it, and you're like, wait a minute, what?
Well, I tell you what's scary. Do you do that ancestry DNA?
I haven't. I'm a little afraid to.
I've done that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because now seeing a lot of relatives on my mother's side, people on my father's side, a lot of them live in England, won't do it.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing supposedly relatives that live here in Harford County, we don't even freaking know.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, that's the thing. That's like with Perryman Graveyard or Studio Graveyard. There's a Pence. I think it's William and Eileen or something Pence. That's my last name, spelled the exact same way, and it's not a common name the way it's spelled.
Yeah.
And they died in the 40s. We cannot find who they are, but I'm like, they have to be related. There's no other, because I know the Pence's it was either in Havre de Grace or Delta, Pennsylvania. It was one of the two where we're from. Because I know my great-grandmother Ruby worked actually at the State Theater in Havre de Grace, which I think is another weird thing I have with the theater.
Well, keep in mind, too, if they passed away in the 40s, what's your background? Are you Italian or anything? German.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about, so just give you an idea. So the podcast that we just recorded recently, I mentioned Franklin Castle.
Yeah.
So my father's from Cleveland. he would tell us, I don't know if I told you this story or not.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Ooh.
His mother would drop him off at his grandfather's house. And my grandfather would put him on a leash in the front yard. So then when his mother would come and pick him up, when they were going home, a lot of times my father, this is all stuff my father told me.
Yeah.
You know, my father would always tell his mother how he saw people go into the house, but not everybody came back out.
Oh.
Years later, actually decades later, the state bought the house, and they found secret passageways with skeleton remains in them.
No. Oh, man.
Now,
ooh.
Now, again, from what I've been told, my great-grandfather was a godfather in the Irish Mafia.
Okay.
And now I don't know who owns the house now. I don't know if I don't think the state owns it anymore. I think somebody else bought it, but it's called Franklin Castle.
Yeah, because I know it's been on Ghost Adventures. Yeah. It's been on, I think Taps investigated it before.
And my great-grandfather basically owned that whole block because he had brothels and all everything in there. This is back in the 30s, 20s and 30s. And the so was it several years later, or was it probably, how old was my son? 30? 17 years ago, maybe? I can't remember. Anyways, my sister got tickets for me and my son to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland.
Oh, yes.
Well, we would have to fly up there. At the time, I didn't fly.
Yeah.
So we never went. But I was looking at places, so I wanted to find something on that block. And it just so happens there was a bed and breakfast on that block. So I called the people and told them what we were looking for. I said, by chance, I said, I know this is a long shot, but I was told that my great-grandfather owned basically every place on that block. I said, have you ever heard of Franklin Sears Bennett? Guy's like, he's like, oh my God, are you serious? I'm like, yeah.
Oh, man.
We found papers here and everything with a Franklin Sears Bennett on it, but we have no idea who he was. I was.
Oh my God. I love it.
Now keep in mind too, because there's no documents about my great-grandfather owning Franklin Castle or some other places there. One of the things that guys in the mob did, they would not put their names on things.
Oh, no.
And there was a reason that happened. So, or it would be a fake name.
Yep.
So, yeah, you're not going to, it's one of the things they were all, never leave a paper trail.
Yep.
The only paper trail you want to leave is that cash paper trail.
Yep.
So,
that's very true. Well, that's something that, like, I laugh about, like, with, like, I watch The Dumb Criminals, and I'm like, there's something about, like, organized crime like that. I'm like, they're smart about it. Whereas I'm like, some of these people, I'm like, you are so dumb with this. No wonder you get caught.
Well, yeah, it's a lot different back then than it was
that's
today.
very true.
Yeah, so it's
I love stuff like that. We have to go there. We have to go there.
I would love to go there.
Yeah.
And they do keep hearing, I think it's a little girl's voice upstairs.
Wow.
If I'm not mistaken.
Because I want to say, I have to go back and watch the episode, but I know they actually got EVPs of stuff there. So. Oh, yeah. You said it's in Cleveland? That's not, okay, that's north. Okay, because I'm used to like Southern Ohio near like Mothman and stuff. Yeah, but that's why.
He was from Cleveland. Well, his grandfather was, because I think my father lived in Akron, which I don't believe is that far from Cleveland.
Yeah.
So.
I want to talk about the mental health podcast roundtable we did. Do you remember that? Like 2 years ago, it was Jordan Lawley. I think.
Yeah.
So I questioned all of them about psychedelics.
Right. Yes.
I find this so funny because, like, I told my friends this, and they were like, you're just being messy, Derek. And I'm like, but at the same time, I was like, I really wanted to know. So I don't know. Let's tell that story because I think it's funny.
Well, all right. So the funny thing is, since that, I've had other people on
who mentioned it.
Yeah, I mean, have gone to other countries. I just talked to a guy this week.
Yeah,
a doctor who, I've heard everything he does, but he went to somewhere in South America.
Yeah, it was probably an ayahuasca trip in the indigenous Amazon. Yeah.
But I don't even know how it came up. You brought it up somehow. And because we had somebody from Upper Chesapeake here as well. And a lot of people didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, because it was like and like Jordan, like, because he knows what he knows. Right. He's cool. And he was like, yeah, there's been research, but like, let's do mindfulness, meditation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, like I've healed, like I've done mushrooms before. I had a very healing, cathartic experience from it. And I was like, let's talk about this. I think it's
because of the time we did it.
Yeah.
Because keep in mind, at that time, too, one of the things that we really didn't talk about was marijuana. Because it wasn't legal yet.
Yeah. So,
because that part of the episode never made the episode about the psychedelics because my sponsor's like, yeah, we don't want you to put that in there.
I know. Because I was laughing because I was like, and I loved it because I could tell I made them uncomfortable. But then also I'm like, no, like I want to, like, you need to look into this as a mental health professional. And now I think like they did because I was like, now I'm like, wow, I was ahead of the curve because I was 3 years ago.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But because the other thing, and that's the funny thing with podcasts when you have sponsors.
Yes.
And now when I say sponsors, I'm meaning, like we I go out to businesses. Those are my sponsors.
Yeah. Not
like what you get, from these podcast channels or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So, because there are episodes to where, matter of fact, this just happened recently. Somebody wanted to come on and talk about a lawsuit.
Oh.
And I was like, first of all, I like doing evergreen podcasts.
Yes.
Because if you're talking about an event or something like this, like a lawsuit, 5 years from now, even a year from now, it may not be relevant.
Yeah.
But when you're doing natural conversations like we do, it can stay relevant. So they approached me about it. They wanted to do it. I said, I'm going to have to check with my sponsors first.
Yeah.
And none of my sponsors were comfortable with it. And they said, and you know me, even with the podcast, I try to stay on a positive track.
Yes. Well, there's so many that are so doom and gloom. Like, it's like, I watch it and I'm like, why don't we just hang ourselves now? Like, it's crazy.
But here's the thing. Because even on some of my episodes, we've talked about suicide. We've talked about
mental health, addiction.
But we're raising awareness.
Yes.
And that's positive.
Yes. And we're breaking the stigma, which is why, like, I love doing that type of stuff. Because it's like, most people have had suicidal ideation. They've dealt with it, or they've interacted with someone who suicided themselves, or they've had a mental health episode, and it's like, and people don't talk about it. It's this hush. Oh no, we don't discuss it. We don't discuss it. Meanwhile, they just sweep it under the rug. The rug's 3 feet off the ground, and we have to pretend like, oh, everything's fine and wonderful, and it's not.
I'll tell you, one of the biggest rewards I've gotten for my podcast, and it's happened several times, and if it hasn't happened with you yet, it will, is when a listener contacts you and thanks you for an episode that you did, and it's helped them or changed their life.
Yeah, I had one. It was a listener. They were 16. They came out as gay. Parents kicked them out, so they were living in a shelter in Baltimore. They're from Harford County, and somehow they found it and messaged me and was like, "Hey, I'm homeless, and this is making me laugh, and I appreciate it." And it's like stuff like that where I was like, well, my little dick jokes change someone that's going through a traumatic time, Yeah,
that's the other funny thing about podcasting, because I've had, was it you or before you? It may have been you. Somebody's like, why are you going to have somebody on that's a drag queen? I said, why not?
Yeah.
He's human. And let me tell you, in all honesty, I've met so many freaking great people, and the ones that, and we all remain friends. But whether gay, lesbian, black, white, I don't care.
Yep.
Oh my God, I'm going to forget his name. Bruce Backert.
Yeah.
Who is a social media influencer. Had him on. Awesome guy. Love him. Musical artist. I think I may have told you about the musical artist who, if you haven't gotten on Kid South, if you haven't gotten him on yet, you need to.
Okay.
Awesome guy. Awesome. But I mean, just, it doesn't,
People get, and especially now because drag is politicized. There's that element.
Well, dude, I learned shit from you when you
Yeah.
were on my podcast talking
Yeah.
about drag.
Yeah.
Because I told you about the ugly waitress spaghetti.
Yeah,
dinner
and I'm
we
like,
did.
that's drag.
Yeah,
That's
I'm like,
drag.
It was? Shit.
That's why people think like they
Yeah.
think drag is like a certain thing, and I'm like, it's
Well-
how you present to the world, and I'm like, if you're dressing up as a character like that, you're in drag.
Well, you told me, what was it, scary drag and something else?
Scary drag, and then there's like trash drag.
Yeah, but also the ones that dress.
Oh,
dress
drag kings. Was that
Drag
it?
kings, I didn't
Yeah.
know was the thing. But also, like, somebody, like, dresses like Cher and looks like Cher.
Yeah. Oh,
But-
celebrity impersonation. Yeah.
Celebrity impersonations, but some of them where you can't tell.
Yeah.
And then, like, with your character, I think you said it's scary drag or something.
Yeah. I'm a zombie glamazon.
Yes,
I'm
that
an
was it.
alien. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's like, I had no freaking idea.
Yeah, there's like a creativity and like a theatrical element to it that like
Oh.
I don't think people realize how much goes into it.
Oh, no. And then when we had Nicole on my podcast,
Yeah.
because she does the pole dancing.
Yeah.
And you started talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
and you both said, well, no, it's easier when you're wearing heels.
Totally is.
What the hell?
Totally is.
I learned so much shit, man.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I just go back. I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it. I want to change it for the world, in
Yeah.
all honesty.
That's why I love it and also like long form like conversations like this where you like can listen to the person, get a feel for their energy. Like this is the stuff people are craving.
Oh,
not
yeah.
like, a 15-minute soundbite that's been edited down and condensed. Like that stuff is okay, but I'm like, this is where it's at. And this is where like if you really want to make a like decision or a judgment against it, listen to it in a longer form podcast. And also remember, people are human.
And you're going to get your haters no matter
Yeah,
what.
no matter what.
I think the worst one I had was I had a lady, an author, on, and she wrote a book. What was it called? Sunflowers in the Snow, about the Ukraine war. This is before the Ukraine war even started.
Yeah.
She also, her and her husband also rode a tandem bicycle across the United States.
Yeah.
So when you know me, I love playing with words, with headlines. So I think one of the social media posts was something about a bicycle built for two in the snow or something like that. Anyways, one of the things was hashtag Ukraine war. And lo and behold, somebody commented, what the hell's a bicycle got to do with the war? It's like, did you listen to the episode?
Oh, God.
No, I ain't buying into your propaganda.
Like what the
Yeah. So, I mean, you are going to get your haters.
Yeah.
But you know what?
You're doing
So be
something
it.
right, I always
Yeah.
say.
This is why I always say, when it comes to podcasting, you're not going to get a lot of listeners from social media.
No.
You're going to get listeners from other podcasts.
Yep.
This is why, and I told you and Brad with the Chesapeake Podcast Network, that's why I'm adding that virtual networking part. Because if we can imagine just swapping trailers or swapping whatever. Say you do a speak up about my podcast on yours and vice versa. What's that going to do? It's going to tell your listeners about my podcast and my listeners about your podcast. That's where you're going to find other listeners, is from people that are listening to the podcast.
And then it all builds on each other.
Oh,
and
yeah.
also it's like, because you probably get this a lot, because I get people that listen out in LA, out in Vegas. I have, my brother's in stations in Spain. He listens to it. And like people are listening to it because of Harford County. They're listening. They're like, wait a minute, like this stuff is happening back home in Harford, and they're listening to it in LA and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, that's the stuff I love too. Because I'm like, people forget about this place. People, they act like nothing happens. I'm like, there's a whole culture here. There's a scene.
Yep.
And there's a special magic here that is why, like, I'm still here. I think you're still here for it. It's like that magic, and it's like we're capturing that in our own little ecosystem.
Well, and the thing is, and I've had this happen. Somebody in California heard my podcast, and they heard one of my sponsors, me talking about one of my sponsors, and they moved here.
Yeah.
And they opened up an account with that sponsor.
Wow.
Because they heard it on the podcast.
Yeah.
I've had people contact me that have contacted another one of my sponsors for something because they heard it on the podcast, and they didn't even live here.
Yeah.
So it's my thing, and this is what I tell my sponsors. And anybody listen, if you're a business and you want to become a sponsor of Derek's show,
Oh yeah.
keep this in mind. If you don't want your name going out from where you are, you shouldn't be in business.
Yes.
You should. Your brand. You want your brand to be known throughout the world.
Yes.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have a website.
Exactly.
And if you don't have a website, then well, that's another story.
Yeah.
But if to get your name out there everywhere, because you never know who's going to visit here from another country, another state, who's going to move here.
You never know who's listening either.
Exactly.
Because I have a few.
How many people travel?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Listen to podcasts?
Exactly. So how many people work, listen to podcasts? It's conversation, and it's like you just have it on the background. You're listening to it while you're like typing an email or like doing stuff like that, and it's.
So fun fact, because I've been doing this since 2015, so I follow everything. One of the report came out about podcast advertising. People that listen to a podcast and hear an ad, and then when a host read ad, meaning you're talking about during your podcast, that business gets more business from that host read ad than TV, radio, or print ad.
Oh yeah, because podcasts is like it's taking off. It's taking off.
But the funny thing is, it's still easier to start a business. Yeah, you'll have more success starting a business than you will a podcast.
True.
It's.
I mean, you definitely
numbers,
gotta. There's a little bit of like you gotta figure it out. I mean, it's like any type of theater, any type of like performing way. You gotta.
It's fun.
It is fun.
If you stick with it, it's fun. Consistency is key. And don't be afraid if you have somebody on and it just didn't go the way you wanted to. You don't have to post that episode.
Yeah. And you can always edit it.
You edit it, or you can ask them to redo it. I think there's 2 episodes that I've recorded that I never posted. One was because it was right after COVID via telephone.
Yeah.
Becky Titleman, if you're listening, I need to get you back on. Because I love Becky. I've had her on before, and we did it right after COVID. And she was on her cell phone. I had it connected to my equipment. Yeah. But it kept going in and out. Yeah. And it wouldn't have done her justice.
Yeah. See, that's something you taught me was like, because I've done a lot of podcasts where it's like we're just taping over Zoom and I just have like my ear pods in. And when I was like doing yours, I was like, wait a minute, like let's actually look into the sound tech. And that's why I got like my little board. I can connect to it because that makes a big difference.
It does.
Because I'm tired of these podcasts that are like a taped phone call and it sounds like they're on an old dial rotary phone.
There was an old local podcast that was like that.
Yep.
And oh my God, they had a guy on who used to be on my dream list and my dream guest list. And he was on his cell phone and you could tell. Yeah. And it's just like, oh man, why would you? Yeah. Now, granted, there are times, like I had a guy on one time and we recorded, it was virtually. He was on his computer and his network connection was not that good. Yeah. Excuse me. So it kept going in and out. And I said, man, can we schedule another day to redo this? So we did. And it was still bad, not as good. But his message was so strong. And I wanted to get it out. Yeah. And that's where the editing comes in. Yeah. So we just did a roundtable on living a fulfilled life. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. So I don't know if you heard this story or not.
I don't think so.
Okay. So it was me, my son, my wife's cousin, her husband came up from Mississippi, my neighbor, and Joe Ayler, because it was Joe Ayler's, you know Joe?
Yeah. Tar Hill Construction?
Yeah. It was his idea.
Hit me if you want to sponsor.
So, it was his idea to do it. I was like, okay. I said, but we got to do it in the afternoon because cousin's coming up from Mississippi. He said, all right, bring the bourbon.
Oh God,
so I did. So I didn't drink Ace, but I made old fashions for all of them. Yeah. And we're sitting around the round table, and had separate. I didn't use the Blue Yeti. I had separate microphones for everybody, and it just so happened I think the one I had for Joe had the on-off switch.
His was off.
It what? No. Oh. Because I test everything.
I've done that. I mean, that's why I always test it. But I'm like, wait a minute.
But I have a funny feeling that somehow it did. Yeah. Get shut off. Oh, goodness. Before we started recording, because when I went to edit it, I uploaded all the tracks. So there should have been 5 tracks. It's like, Wait a minute, there's only 4 tracks here.
Mhm.
Something ain't right.
Oh man.
All right, so I went back and checked everything out. I said, why do I only have 4 tracks? So I went and listened. Joe's track was missing,
Of course.
which means his microphone had to be shut
Yeah.
off. It's like, shit. Thank God I was using single microphones.
Mm-hmm.
And so my microphone and Everson, my other guest, Joe was between us. Took me 8 hours to edit that thing because I had to go through so much stuff just to pull Joe's voice out. But it was worth it because the message
it's a good
was
episode.
Important, man. It was. Oh
I love it.
I told Joe, I sent the message to everybody. I said, well, I got some good news and bad news. I said, the bad news is Joe's voice is not heard in the recording. Somehow or another, his microphone's off. Joe came back. He's like, all right, so what's the bad news? It's like, that was a bad news.
You're like, it happens.
He is. Yeah, I mean, that is. But again, that's where the editing comes in.
And it's trial and error, and you always learn from that type of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like your software out there. I was using, like for recording virtually.
Yeah.
Some of these platforms I tried, and
it's not good.
No, it wouldn't work. You could tell like certain ones are strictly made for podcasting, the sound quality and all. But no, I love it. And I got to admit, man, I'm proud to see you doing it.
Thank you.
Because and I've told you, all my co-hosts, I want them to learn if I think they would be good at podcasting. Number one, I want to have them as a co-host because you'd be too scared to talk. But I want you to learn and start your own.
Yeah, that's why I love it because you taught me how to do it and do it professionally. And now like I have sponsors. I'm going into season 2. You're actually this is the season 2 opening episode.
Oh wow!
So I figured I was like I'm getting big for this one. So it's stuff like that where like you taught me everying with it, which is like I'm so grateful for.
Stuff.
Yeah,
I'm still because everything changes.
Yeah,
throughout time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like now with the advertising on other podcasts, I found a platform where I can. It's almost like geo-targeting with Facebook ads.
Yeah, I
can target podcast, so I could set up my ad to play on podcasts that are only played in certain zip codes.
Excellent. You got to show me that because I'm like I want to. Yeah. I need to get more followers in Harford and Cecil County.
I wanted to try this.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to test it and see how it works, so I could do that for my sponsors.
Yeah,
which makes sense because
that's amazing.
The platform I'm using, it can be done on either podcast or music streaming.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta. Ooh.
Yeah, I'll send you the link for it.
Excellent. All right, so wrapping up, I got a few questions for you.
Okay,
So we just recorded an episode for your podcast with Brad about haunted like Harford County and ghosts and stuff. You're a veteran. Have you been to the Perry Point VA complex?
Not as a veteran.
Okay.
I was there.
Because that is one of my dream paranormal places to investigate. I know so many vets that have had experiences there, so I just want to know if you had any.
Not experiences there, but I do remember going there a few times because my grandmother was a vet. She was a whack.
Okay.
I do need to go there.
Yeah.
I need to find a VSO.
Well, don't let the VA cut on you, I always say. Don't let them do surgery on you.
Well, no, because I was stationed at Camp Lejeune, where they have the French water.
Yeah. Oh,
so
Jesus.
I got to go.
Oh.
I need to go to the VA to get.
Yeah.
Because my regular doctors don't know what they're looking for when they test for stuff.
That's very true.
But no, I would love to get. My sister-in-law actually started a nonprofit. She's out there right now.
Okay.
Chep. And
keep an eye out for ghost stories because it's one of those places where, like, my grandfather Floyd Earls, like, I would always go with him when he did physical therapy sometimes. So I've been in there. Everyone had experiences. My mom worked out there, not for the VA, but for another local government agency. She knows people that have had experiences. She has. So I always ask everybody, I'm like, if you've been there, like, what are the stories?
So, and that's funny because you see a lot of these paranormal investigations.
Yeah.
How many do you see at old military or even
very
current
few
military establishments?
Because the DOD's
they're not allowed.
Yeah, because like we were talking about APG. I would love to go on there and investigate.
Kirk Army Hospital?
Yes.
If it's still there.
Yeah. Bainbridge, all that stuff.
What about some of the missile silos?
Oh, I can only imagine. The stuff that's in there. So, and there's also a lot of like cryptid sightings around stuff. So, I mean, the Mothman in Point Pleasant was a World War II munitions factory.
The Goat Man? Or the Goat Man? It was a Goat Man?
Yeah, in Bowie. He He's near, yeah. What is it? Not Fort Detrick. It's the one out there.
Yeah, I can't remember.
BW
Fort
Parkway.
Drum? Not Fort Drum.
One of them. Yeah.
I
All right.
I can't remember.
So ending up, what is your favorite John Waters movie?
Probably Crybaby.
Crybaby?
Yeah.
Excellent. What is it about John that you love? Because, I mean, Baltimore creative.
He's just God. With I want to say his movies to me, when it comes to directors and writers, you have certain ones that just stand out from the rest.
Yeah.
Whether, it be like true stuff that's going on or like way out there like him or funny as hell.
Yeah.
Like, my God, his name just went out of my head. Not Mel Gibson.
No.
Oh, God. Mel Brooks.
Yes.
Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
John Waters, and what I love even more about John Waters, he is true local.
Yes.
He writes about
still
the
in
stuff
Baltimore.
here. Hairspray's another great one.
Yeah.
The original.
Yeah.
I love that. The one with John Travolta was okay, but
he
just
had
something
the
about
accent.
original
He had
ones.
the accent good.
Yeah.
Everything else, I'm like, that's not Baltimore.
But Crybaby was probably my favorite.
See, Female Trouble is that what got me into drag. Babs Johnson, like that one is good, and of course everyone's seen Pink Flamingos.
That's somebody, and whether it be for an interview for a podcast or what, that's somebody I would just love to sit down and have coffee or a drink with.
Yeah.
And just shoot the shit with them.
Yeah.
Because it just, like, I would like to add. I mean, I think when he started, they were still shooting, 16 millimeter?
Yeah. It was the late 60s.
Yeah.
It was him and a bunch of his friends on acid doing stuff.
He's just, and that pencil thin mustache.
Yep.
Man.
Still has it.
I still think Jimmy Buffett wrote the song about John Waters.
Yep. Oh, totally. Totally. And how many people do you know run into him at the airport? My sister just had
John
one.
Waters?
Yeah, like a few months ago. She had one.
Of anybody running into him at the airport?
I've heard that
town.
And I've heard that too. So
yeah, he's somebody I would just love to sit down and just shoot the shit.
He's
with,
like the
man.
best. He's the best.
He's awesome.
All right, so I've been about ready to beam up. So where can we find you, Rich?
Conversationswithrichbennett.com.
Excellent. All right, guys.